COL Foundation is in chronic food security, even some parts in Mindanao. In Gensan, we're partners with the city. Although it was kind of put in hold right now because of the COVID, we feel that the crisis is really touching on midterm and long-term issues already of food security. And I think even in our organization, we have to revisit based on Joanne's recommendation in Mindanao. Kasi pag hindi nga inisip yung susunod na cropping at saka yung restoration ng food supply or supply chain, mag-fester yung issue. And it can actually move from one crisis to the next. No? So yun siguro, I want to share that before I start. Our perspective in NCR was brought about not out of a strategy, but more out of a response. And I need to be able to step back. I shared this a bit earlier in our caucus the other day, but I think I need to be able to weave it together so that we can see that as the response is going, another part of the subgroup where Eugene and I are together are already touching on economic restarting, or rather restoration. No? Let me just briefly on the group. The group is talks about the group is members of or leaders of organizations. These are the organizations. I've shared this before. So among all these leaders, all of us are operators of programs. So we know how to operate programs, we know strategies, and we have access to resources as well as networks. I think ang importante rito is the network and the knowledge that we all bring to the issue. But the group decided to focus on the most vulnerable areas, and I think that's very important in this crisis. So actually, it was really a response to start, because we feel that the most vulnerable areas will be the first hit, di ba? From there, let me just move my mouse. We started in March 16, and most of the issues revolve around the quarantine. The issues that arise from the quarantine, no? And this is probably where the crux of the issue come from. I'd like to spend just a few moments in this slide. In Manila, from our knowledge team, out of the 13 million residents, 2.5 million live in depressed communities, and there are 3.1 million that are homeless. So immediately, the quarantine and any kind of shortage will hit these people very, 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 very quickly. Okay? Nagkaroon ng mga initiatives with the LGUs, the SWD, and private sector. Kung nakita nyo yung Bayanihan Musikahan, si Lea Salonga was even there. It's still going on. This picture was taken, I think, sometime March or April, March pa lang. Yung na-raise ng Bayanihan Musikahan ngayon ay close to 60 million already. No? This is aside from what ABS-CBN Foundation, Caritas Manila, PBSP, and Philippine Disaster and Relief Foundation is engaging. Altogether, I think it's over $1 billion already that was already deployed. But unfortunately, in the first week of response, we found that it was like a sinkhole. Parang hinihigop yung response. So the group invested in really knowledge, and the first lens that we developed was the density of urban poverty versus the COVID cases. This was a map done for NCR in March 23-24. I'll just breeze through it. From our mapping, we prioritized the areas. City of Manila, Caloocan, and Quezon City are among the highest ones. Not just because of the COVID cells or epidemics, clusters, but rather on the density areas. And this is one of the glaring issues that we saw by April 13. By April 13, from the DSWD Dromic, DSWD was only able to spend 143 million, as opposed to the LGUs and the private sector already spending 4.4 billion. So this is a very glaring gap in spending. And DSWD wasn't really, the problem with DSWD is really the bureaucratic bottlenecks, I think, in being able to deploy that, no? And I think even now they're having issues, but they have gone beyond some of them. So with this kind of picture, you can already imagine the seriousness of the situation. And then, and just to add context to that scenario, this was taken sometime early April, late March, on the projected spending of calamity funds of cities. So they're burning through their budgets very fast. Some can stay above water, but by this time, most are already negative. By this time, we're expecting only Makati that is above the water line, and most of the cities are already in the negative. They were already allowed to realign some of their budgets, but still, the LGUs are very much saddled with this. No? So the first initiative that we did was really to be able to bring together the LGU responses, private sector responses, and the beneficiaries, so that when we engage DSWD, they can very much align the responses as well within this targeting matrix. No? And if we zoom into Quezon City, in March 23-24, this was the map of the COVID. On March 23, as we entered into the first week of the lockdown. By April 6, the calamity got worse because the COVID infection exploded in QC. Key to note that most of the explosion are in the lower part, hindi dun sa taas. Napagbibiruan nga namin na mukhang tama yung myth na yung mga squatter areas mas mababa ang morbidity or mababa ang COVID cases for one reason or the next. It's not really scientifically backed up, but sabi nga, uy, mas resilient yata yung mga difficult communities or rather areas. Nevertheless, the challenge for hunger will still be there, no? So what we did was, let me just move on faster. So as we responded on the first 2 weeks, we faced the response towards a market-based solutions. And this is where, from a response, you're already transitioning to already recovery, I think. This is the intermediate part of recovery, where you discover the gaps in the supply chain. And one of the first things that we discovered, aside from the supply chain malfunction itself, was also the big role of microfinancing. No? So what we did was we partnered with an MFI called Kasagana Ka, and we mapped out their presence. Strangely, when they said, you know, in Quezon City, we're already funding women in these high-risk areas. Unfortunately, they remain a potential in addressing food security. We don't even ask for money from the government. Kasi pag binigyan mo ng pera, ititiway lang lahat yan. Pero the key is to restart the economy in these areas, no matter how small it is, because of reduced buying power or reduced demand. Kahit pa paano, iikot yung pera. And really, if you unlock this money, you're actually restarting the economies in these areas. So pagharap namin sa DA, pagharap namin sa Quezon City, and with DSWD, this was one of the asks that we had with them. No, one was to be able to provide mobility to these people and to connect them to supply. So the green areas are actually the women groups that have food enterprise in these areas, in Payatas, in zoom natin ha, teka ha. Zoom natin ng konti. No? Batasan Hills, Holy Spirit, Bagong Silangan, Gulod, no? Nandyan yung areas, no, nasan sila. And yung portfolio ng MFI, minapad din namin recently, just this other day, makikita nyo na yung matataas na areas, kamukha ng Payatas, malaki yung portfolio. They have about, ito yung distribution ng kanilang members, and this is the distribution of their funding. Sabi nila, ma-unlock lang ito, kaya namin yung last mile, mapondohan kahit pa paano. And that's what one of the learnings we found was that in a response, we really have to focus on the tail end or the last mile in a response, not rehab, response situation to be able to mitigate hunger and food insecurity. And we found out that aside from logistics, we need to scope finance, especially in the Philippine context. Kasi hindi, sabi nga ni Mea nun, kailangan yung produkto at yung pera, makita mo yung connection. No? This is one of the agreements we had with QC. So QC agreed to have an executive order to provide mobilization. Pero at the same time, we needed to balance the strategy with some health. So tinanong din namin paano ba yung kanilang testing, kung pwede prioritize sila sa PCR testing na nangyayari ngayon, since we are exposing them to the elements and to the risk of COVID contamination. No? I won't go through the details anymore. So we've had an agreement with LGU. We've had agreements with DA and the SWD that we're chasing down this week. From the learnings that I have, I want to invite Eugene also to add to this kasi this is only mine. Hindi pa namin na-process yung learnings ng aming grupo dahil puro response yung ginagawa namin. From my own, this is what I saw. No? The response needs to be focused on the last mile, market solution, but needs to transition to an economic rehab perspective as we face it through the COVID crisis. So yung sinabi ni Joanne kanina, I think our group need to see that later on. Kasi hindi pwedeng last mile lang. Pero how to do that, wala pa kami doon. The MFIs have a big role in reactivation of local and informal economies. This includes strengthening of food access. So magsasabay yun. That's why the intermediate response actually already is scoping economic restarting. No? DA, we found, and not to fault them, was not geared towards addressing massive supply chain disruption. LGU need to take on a bigger role in this part because of the tactical responses that need to happen and ad hoc arrangements that need to also be put in place. So, doon sa gagawin namin, we need, sabi nag-uusap ka kami, pwede ba natin i-map out yung mga ad hoc supply chains that are being established and how they are good or bad? No? So, we need to be able to look at that. Kagabi, when I was talking with the QC food security head, sabi ni Nonong, Jess, DA, we've been talking to DA, one of the issues that may come up is how to facilitate the financial transactions. We haven't realized that in our group yet. Dahil wala pa kami doon, pero we're on a watch out and to try to see how that will emerge as an issue. And we will see what kind of arrangements we will make to address that. There needs to be, na-notice ko, when I step back, na-notice ko, for example, DOF yung nagre-recommend ng post-ECQ scenario, but I think there has to be a balance of health, social welfare, and economic perspective. Sample, when you release the social amelioration packages, you're effectively deepening the demand for food. When you do that, there has to be already a supply in place. Otherwise, malalak mo din yung pera dun sa mga accounts ng mga pamilya, baka magastos yun sa pag-inom, baka magastos yun sa ibang bagay, pero hindi mo natutulungan yung pamilya pag hindi mo rin na-establish yung supply. There has to be an adequate communication. There are a lot of communication gaps from what I'm seeing from our meetings. And I think there has to be something, there has to be an analysis there also. So this is the learnings that I saw. That's about it. Thanks, Doc Elmer.
Okay, thanks, Jess. Sige, so now we have asked
Sorry, Eugene, do you have anything to add?
Just quickly, no, yung
Okay.
yung supply chain presentation kanina ni Ms. Belinario.
May share?
Okay,
Hello?
Flora.
Diba?
Gusto mo i-share? Kasi Eugene just met with DTI eh. Wala ako eh.
Hindi natuloy sa DTI eh. Nag-repeat meeting lang with DA and DSWD. Anyway, what I was saying is the supply chain presentation earlier showed what we've been emphasizing from the beginning, no? Yung finance is the pain point even before the ECQ. Now it's worse. Now, a worse pain point for the poor kasi yung pera ang magpapaikot ng pagkain eh. From the beginning, yung CSO and private sector network had no illusion na pwedeng pagpatuloy itong pwedeng tuloy-tuloy itong food pack. Imposible eh. Yun, it disrupts the supply chain, no, yung LGU ang bumibili, no, and pagod na mga LGU. So that's the rationale behind our advocacies, IATF, and fortunately DTI, DA and DSWD are supporting it to let the MFIs, the cooperatives, employees to allow them, no, to be part of the financial services that are allowed to work. Kasi sila yung magpapaikot ng pera eh, doon sa mga mahihirap. So kung wala yung designation nila as economic frontliners by the IATF, wala. Talagang kailangan tuloy-tuloy yung food pack. And pagod na ang mga tao sa food pack, pagod na ang LGU, disrupted na yung supply chain, no? So sana ma-approve ng IATF. Fortunately, sabi nga ni Jess, may mga ilang LGUs na pumayag, no? QC, Bohol, Albay, pero ang dami pang hindi pumapayag. And sakit ng ulo. Hirap kumuha ng pass kung sa bawat LGU hihingin. So hopefully makalusot na sa IATF yung advocacy na yon. And that will unleash yung yung unlock billions, no, without additional budget from the government. It would unlock about 60 billion in the portfolios of MFIs and co-ops, which people will surely use to buy food. So yun lang.